Good evening, Wisconsin. This is Dana Zulik, and this is Local Wars Wisconsin. Um, so, just to start off, last night's live stream was a bit rough, but I'm going to have some self grace and self compassion and recognize that it's a lot to talk about, it's a lot to process. So, I'm going to keep sharing my story. I only have, you know, I haven't had too many people, I think, so far. We've had a couple of people join us while we're live streaming. But as the channel grows, hopefully that'll keep changing. And hopefully over time we'll be set up better where we can do a more professional layout of everything. And I can figure out StreamYard. StreamYard, in case you don't know, is just it's a it's a way to run your like YouTube podcasts and stuff. So, anyways, again, my name is Dana, and I am a mom and a combat veteran. I live in the village of Richfield, and for the past 10 years, I've been embroiled in ongoing litigation and controversy within the community where I live. It is my belief, based on everything that's happened, that basically I didn't simply listen to the local government when they told me that I wasn't able to operate my business. I bought a 40-acre parcel of land that was an abandoned sand and gravel pit, and the goal is to restore it by accepting clean fill and filling it up with dirt and construction materials from construction sites around southeast Wisconsin, mainly the Milwaukee area. Do you guys see movement around me? Those are my dogs. We've got Alice. Alice. My English master. See, that's Alice. Say hello. Oh, and Paige should be right. Paige, where are you? Oh, she switched sides. Oh, her head's right there. There they are. So they wanted some snuggle time tonight. So I thought, what the heck? I'll give them some snuggle time. So let me just kind of fix the camera. Okay. So tonight we're going to be talking about some of the moving parts, and a lot of people in the community have oversimplified the case of Scenic Pit versus the Village of Richfield, which is totally understandable. It ended up being a pretty complex case that affected case law. Okay, so I am not a lawyer. Let me give that disclaimer right away. I am not a lawyer, guys. I am a veteran and a mom and a photographer. So I don't pretend to be a lawyer, but through this experience, the last 10 years, I've learned a lot about how the law works. So forgive me as I go through this in layman's terms. And if anybody wants to correct me or um, basically do some background research on what I'm talking about, just let me know because I'm confident that my current understanding is accurate. So, uh, case law is basically you have your statutes, which are our laws, and the state legislature writes them, and then the courts interpret them. So sometimes the law won't be as clear as it should be, and so uh, that's how people end up in litigation in court. So in my case, there was a case called DeRosa Landfill versus City of Oak Creek. And in that case, the facts were quite similar to the Scenic Pit case. It was a clean fill facility in the city of Oak Creek, and it was actually a site where they borrowed clay to cap a landfill. And hold on one second. I think it might be easier without the dogs in the room. But anyways, they the city of Oak Creek was trying to stop this landfill owner, DeRosso, from filling the site back in with same idea, construction debris. So, as I said in a previous episode, a clean fill site is where trucks bring dirt, and because we're so close to the city of Milwaukee and surrounding metropolitan area, we can actually charge dump trucks to dump their dirt. So pretty simple, cut and dry. So back in 1996, I believe it was, the city of DeRosso ended up in litigation, or I'm sorry, city of DeRosso. DeRosso Landfill Company was the plaintiff, and they sued the city of Oak Creek for the right to fill their site. And in that case, it went all the way up to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and we have case law. The Wisconsin Supreme Court decided unanimously that clean fill facilities are exempt from all local approvals. So, what does that actually mean? We have in Wisconsin what we call the home rule. So, the home rule gives municipalities the right to govern their own local affairs, unless the state of Wisconsin has uh, expressly said that that activity is a statewide concern. So it's basically that fight. You see it at the federal level. Is it the federal government or the state that's in charge of this? And so this is more at the state level and local. So it's, does the state of Wisconsin control this site, or does the village of Richfield? And I guess we're talking about DeRosso. So in that case, it was, does the state of Wisconsin regulate DeRosso landfill, their clean fill site, or does the city? So uh, the courts unanimously decided that the local government, to prevent discrimination, that the local government has been removed from all regulatory authority, and that because we need clean fill sites throughout the state of Wisconsin, that the state is in charge. The state of Wisconsin regulates these properties. And when my case came along, it took us a few months to actually find this case. It wasn't very obvious. There was some statute uh, numbers. They had renumbered them. I think it was like I recall an 11 somewhere, maybe a 211, 111. Anyways, and the number of the solid waste statute was changed to chapter 289. And so when uh, our attorney would do research, or I would do research, we were looking under chapter 289, and it sort of kept going back to it didn't show the case law with the chapter 289 number, because it had been numbered differently when that case was settled and decided. So for whatever reason, they kind of got looked over, and I was reading the statutes one day in chapter 289 solid waste, and I remember seeing the exemptions, and I didn't quite understand what it meant. Again, I'm not an attorney, so I had called a friend of mine, and uh, he had Googled, did some Google search. We set up a time to talk, and it was a Sunday. For some reason, I remember that, and we found, uh, upon my asking him about this stuff, he found DeRosso. So, um, DeRosso's language is very, very distinct. It's very clear. There's nothing left for any person to guess when you read it. Shirley Abramson, who is a former Wisconsin Supreme Court judge, I believe she's since passed away, but she actually used the term manifestly absurd, that it would be manifestly absurd to expect a landfill owner to, well, to exempt a landfill owner from any local approvals, but expect that same landfill owner to ask the local government, what approvals they need to operate the sites. It just doesn't make any sense. it's very confusing. So when we took this case to when we were the plaintiff against the village of Richfield, we were armed with this case. And I didn't understand how deep this case went. I wasn't sure why there was such a big why this was such a big news story. Why was this situation in our case in this landfill, why was it state news, you know? And I'm sitting here like I'm just outraged at how I'm being treated because I'm squelched at meetings. My input is squelched. Like I get told to sit down. I get asked to leave meetings. I everything that I said, whether I tried to say it kind or I tried to say it sternly, and I have lost my temper a couple of times. I mean, this has been 10 years, so um, but it just felt like everything that I said wasn't being heard, and so I'm armed with this case, and it's well settled case law, and I'm thinking that it's just as simple as, I was following the comprehensive plan. The village of Richfield passed their 10-year comprehensive plan, I think in 2014 at that time, and it had expressly even said in the under the abandoned quarries section that there's undeveloped abandoned quarries along Scenic Road that need to be restored. And so we were zoned for quarry reclamation in the comprehensive plan and in the future land use map. So it was just odd to me that they seemed like I was following their plan. The DNR was like, "We've never heard of such a thing." Talking to the DNR representative that actually helped write chapter, or I'm sorry, NR 135, which is non-metallic mine reclamation in Wisconsin. So I had even been speaking with him, and one of his first reactions was, "If you're wanting to fill in an old abandoned quarry, I don't understand why they wouldn't just say thank you." So, as I was getting reactions from different people that I was talking to, I started to ask the same kinds of questions like if I'm following what their plan was in the first place, and the community, they even had public hearings, things like that, and this is what people wanted, and then I'm following the plan, but now all of a sudden we're going to hurry up and have all these secret meetings, and we're going to um, make Dana Zulik look like a bad person, and we're going to basically misinform the community with fear and fear mongering. I had a woman actually accuse me of trying to turn the village of Richfield into India. Legit, guys, India. I'm like, what? Like, she goes up to the mic and she's like, hi, um, I have all these kids. I don't want to give away her identity, and some of them have asthma, and I've been on a mission trip to India, and the pollution there is disgusting. And Dana Zulik wants to turn Richfield into India. Like even the Richfield resident against dump people, we call them rad people because that's what they call themselves. They were all kind of looking at her like, huh? Like, it seems a little odd. But no, I was not trying to turn it into India. What? FYI, as I said before, I'm a combat vet. I lived in Iraq for a year. It was a 15-month deployment altogether. Oh, there's the kitty. And basically, we're good. Okay. There's no pollution in the air from the Scenic Pit. It's well vegetated, boundary line around the rim on the side where the neighborhood is, and yeah. So, anyways, going back to the case, I'm asking myself, why is there this is just crazy. So I had been meeting with officials from the DNR. I had been meeting with state representatives. I even went down to Madison, over to Madison for, I think it was 3 nights I stayed at a hotel, and I sort of just walked around the Capitol to different agencies, knocking on their door, and if they wouldn't talk to me, I would write them a letter, basically explaining to them, that I wanted to talk to them, and my attorney at the time said that I was leaving love letters. "You're leaving love letters for everybody, Dana." Like, "Oh, I didn't think of it that way, but I suppose." And it actually did end up resulting in a meeting with the DNR secretary at the time, Kathy Stepp, and we had a very good meeting. It was a very eye-opening meeting. So the Department of Justice was something that was a little frustrating for me because, like, I look at it like the Department of Justice, right? Like, they're there to protect we the people. In reality, they literally have said to me on numerous occasions, "We represent the government." I'm like, "Right, but then who holds the government accountable when they're not acting appropriately? Like, who holds the government accountable when people's civil rights are being violated, or like in this situation with the pit, like why can't we have somebody at the Department of Justice put their eyes on this and basically, I don't know, give an opinion?" Well, interestingly enough, back in, well, when was this? 2008? Uh, it was quite a while ago. The village of Richfield had this groundwater, well, we still have a groundwater monitoring ordinance, and the DNR has asked the village of Richfield on numerous occasions to repeal the ordinance for the same reason, because the state of Wisconsin is the regulatory authority over groundwater, not the local government. And so at that time, the village of Richfield actually had asked for an opinion from the Department of Justice. And it's, when you read it, it's quite interesting because they say this is not like in the case of DeRosso. This is coming from the Department of Justice's attorneys in their opinion on the Richfield case. Um, they said this is not a situation like DeRosso where clean fill facilities are exempt from all local approvals. Okay, so that was their determination. In a subsequent case, that opinion was cited, and the judge basically ignored that opinion and just said, "Well, I don't agree with you. I think this probably is, I it doesn't matter to me what's an attorney at the Department of Justice says. The courts are the deciding um, the place where these issues are decided when there's a question of law, and that's what happened." And I apologize if there's anybody out there that's an attorney and listening to this. I know it's a little hard, but I'm doing the best I can. And I'm trying to keep it as digestible as possible for um, viewers. So, anyways, the Department of Justice gives this opinion. The court sort of just floof it away, but I just found it really interesting that the village of Richfield has already been there. There's been a heads up given to them about case law and DeRosso. So, uh, this goes on for a while, and at one point, I contacted the Department of Justice, and it was after the Court of Appeals had overturned the circuit court. So we won at the Court of Appeals, and the Village of Richfield was asking for the state Supreme Court, the Wisconsin State Supreme Court, to review the decision by the Court of Appeals. So I called the Department of Justice, and at that time, it was much easier. I was able to get a hold of an attorney, and he says, "Oh, I've got 3 cases sitting here on my desk, and yours is one of them." And I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, we're the Department of Justice. We can't represent you. We can't, weigh in on that, but we can write amicus briefs, basically that, um, I guess amicus means friend of the court or something like that. So if there's an issue that comes to the Wisconsin Supreme Court that the Department of Justice wants to weigh in on, they can certainly submit an amicus brief so that the court can see the position of their agency. At this time, it was Scott Walker was governor, so Attorney General Brad Schimmel was the Attorney General. And, you know, I asked, well, why is the Department of Justice so interested in the Scenic Pit versus Village of Richfield case? And the answer was, well, as you know, we just got concealed carry passed not that long ago. And um, what? I'm on live right now. Oh, what's wrong? Oh, okay. So he said, as you know, we just got concealed carry passed, and things like no residency requirement for Milwaukee police officers passed. And the statutory scheme that basically gave the authority, hold on, I'll be right back. Come on, page here. No? Okay. So the regulatory authority or the statute, every time I get a distraction, it just, doop, and I'm like, uh-oh, what was I talking about? Gotta love ADHD. But so basically the statutory scheme that concealed carry and no residency requirements required for Milwaukee police officers, things like that, fell under was the home rule. It was whether or not the state of Wisconsin or local government can control certain issues and certain activities. So with this, I'm like, oh, well, that's a lot different than whether or not my business can operate because of the potential for groundwater contamination and all these other things. And I just couldn't believe it because we live in a very conservative community. It's very conservative here. I think if there's like something ridiculous, I read like 90% Republican in this area. So I mean, it's not like there's a whole bunch of people on the board that are trying to take away gun rights. So I've tried to bring this up, and I'm like, guys, like literally the village of Richfield is spending hundreds and of thousands of dollars of tax dollars to try to like win this case. But you know what happens if this case gets won? If the village of Richfield won this case, all those things could come back on the table. Those huge political hot button issues like concealed carry and residency requirement, because anywhere that any of our state laws that are found to be of a statewide concern, that's it. It stops. And there's actually, I believe it's called Anchor Savings and Loans. You'll have to do some research on your own, but it's the Anchor test that it's a four-prong test. And if you even meet one of those prongs, it's a statewide concern. And we met three for sure. There's a debate as to whether or not we would meet the second prong as well, but we for sure, without a doubt, meet three of the four prongs. And basically, no local approvals apply. And so the anchor test, when applied, you know, we didn't have to answer to the local government. So that's kind of the live stream for tonight. I don't have a whole lot to share with you, but if anybody is ever asking why, um, I make reference to concealed carry and how the village of Richfield is using your tax dollars to win so they can have more control. Well, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than just whether or not there should be a clean fill facility. It's where does local government start abusing their power? Actually, I shouldn't quite close yet. We should go on for just a little bit because there's a few things I have to explain. So in our case, the Scenic Pit versus Village of Richfield, the opening of it, and I invite you to go look it up. In the beginning, it talks about how to prevent neighborly battles, the state of Wisconsin has formed this broad um, set of rules to prevent discrimination. And, basically the idea behind it all is if we allow local governments to regulate sites like this, there would be none. So to prevent these neighborly battles, the state has taken over. Unfortunately, as I like to say, the law is as good as those who enforce it. So it doesn't matter, I guess, that I've won twice at the Court of Appeals. Uh, they apparently are going to continue to try to monitor the site. And when I say they, I mean Richfield using the sheriff's department. So they had they had it. Sorry, we're talking about the dog. She can come in here. Come on, Alice. You want to come lay with? No, she wants to stay with you. No. Oh, Alice came back. Oh. So, see, now I forgot where I was at. Thanks. Sorry. So, um, at one point, the village of Richfield had even had a spreadsheet. Maybe they still do. I don't know. But Jim Healy was directing the sheriff's department to like keep this log. I think out of 16 drive-bys for the pit. Now, keep in mind, this is after they were told by the courts twice that they had no regulatory authority. They can't supervise, they can't monitor, but they just had this like weird obsession, like, make sure you go and check on Dana's. Like, no, the DNR is supposed to regulate, but we want to do it. So then they just became like the hall monitor. They're just like tattletale, tattletale, tattletale. And a whole bunch of other weird things we'll get into another time. But yeah, so at one point they were even monitoring that way. They proceeded to do a whole bunch of things. This is just a busy time of night. Give me like 2 minutes. So I'm just going to go ahead and close out this live stream. I basically covered the basics. Basically covered the basics. I covered the basics of concealed carry and how the Village of Richfield, uh, the Scenic Pit versus Village of Richfield case, could have affected your concealed carry rights here in Wisconsin. And because it was sold to the public as some sort of environmental tree hugging type situation that I was coming in to pollute and contaminate the community, which was false. Um, the whole thing could have been really bad for gun rights in Wisconsin. But um, I'm just really glad that in that part of the case, in that part of this whole situation, that we were able to prevail in court. And my goal now is to have accountability for the local government, all the things that they have done to contribute to making everything that we're trying to accomplish here at the Scenic Pit much harder. Our goal is to help veterans. We're a recreational therapy center, at least that's what we're working towards. That's the goal. We want to offer a place for combat veterans to feel safe and to, I don't know about any of you out there that experience trauma, but I don't usually go into crisis between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. So the concept is just sort of a way for people to connect, have a support system, show what true support looks like instead of, just saying that we support veterans. So for all my veterans out there and to anybody who might be struggling with mental health, remember the 988 crisis line is an excellent resource and you don't have to be suicidal. It's just a great resource to reach out to. And if you're feeling overwhelmed with anything, and yeah, so that's it. Oh, we got a viewer, but we're closing out. So you're going to have to replay with the replay crew and go ahead. And if you have any questions for me, go ahead and leave the questions. And when we go live tomorrow, I will be more than happy to answer them. Thank you and have a wonderful night. Love you all, whether you believe me or not.